we said, AI for everyone, everywhere, for everything.
What happens when the oldest continuously operating bank in America gets a 21st century makeover? BNY was founded in 1784 by Alexander Hamilton. Today, it oversees $57.8 trillion in assets and serves over 90% of Fortune 500 companies. While the bank's roots go back centuries, it's positioned itself for an AI-powered future. In 2024, the firm launched Alight, an internal AI platform named after Hamilton's wife. To learn more about how BNY is balancing tradition and innovation, I'm talking to Cathinka Wahlstrom, BNY's Chief Commercial Officer. More to come after the break.
Are you ready to nurture what's next? Reimagine industries to turn bold ambition into the beginning of everything. What's your next brilliant move? McKinsey & Company.
Cathinka Wahlstrom, Chief Commercial Officer at BNY. Thank you so much for joining us for Fortune Next Lead.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, I'm certainly excited to have you here. You have had quite a remarkable career at Accenture before leading Alight through its IPO. You're now serving, as I said already, as Chief Commercial Officer at BNY, the oldest bank in the United States. Let's kind of look toward your past. What are the key movements, the catalytic movements or decisions that have essentially shaped your professional path, put you here?
Yes, thank you. So as I look over my career, I kind of think about what's that common thread that pulls it all together that made me interested and passionate about what I was doing. And as I look back, I would say it's clients. I'm very curious about what clients think, what they need, their insights, how we can serve them. So I think that's been true for my entire career. And then I've had the opportunity to work in lots of different places and cities and countries and organizations. So yes, I started my career at Accenture. At the time, we were a partnership. I made partner there, and then we went public and then became one of the biggest companies in the world. So that was an amazing journey, and I got to do a lot of different things. Really started with quite a lot of depth. I think that's important to be known for something. So started in capital markets and then continued learning more about banking and insurance and all that. But on that journey, I found that what I really enjoyed doing was to work with clients and figure out where they were going, and if we could even figure out where they were going before they did, and then come up with ideas and solutions that they might need. So I had a lot of opportunities there. It was a wonderful journey. And I think along the way, I had many opportunities to be somewhat uncomfortable and take risks and all that. And
Give me an example.
Well, so sometimes it was about moving continents. So I was working in London and I went back to New York, or I started in DC and went to London, things like that. Or I was managing the financial services business, and then I was also asked to lead the largest office, which was the Metro New York area, which meant a lot more about the community and people and talent. And every time I think you look at that and say, oh, can I take on even more or do something differently? And somehow you figure it out. But I think it's also okay to say no. Sometimes I haven't said no a lot, but I remember once my kids were very small and someone came up with the idea that I should go to Japan. And I actually said, not now. So I think
I like that you said not now, not no, not
right.
now.
Yeah.
Did you later go to Japan?
I spent certainly a lot of time in Japan, but I never moved to Japan. But I had opportunities to do other things. And then during the pandemic, I got an opportunity that I don't know that I would have thought about, but I wasn't on a plane every day, every week. So I was probably taking phone calls more than I used to. And the call was from Blackstone. They wanted to take a company public, one of their portfolio companies, and I came in as president and chief commercial officer, and that was an amazing time because it was the world around us was fascinating. We were in the midst of the pandemic, and that was really great. And then BNY was a
Why
bit.
did you say yes?
It was daring. It was probably the hardest, most difficult decision I have ever made because I really enjoyed my career at Accenture. So I would say that was harder than getting married, having kids, and moving continents. But I'm really glad I did, and it was a great experience. And then when BNY called, it was a bit like coming home because I knew BNY. I had served them when I was at Accenture, and I had been a client of theirs most recently. And then we were starting this amazing transformation that we've been on for the last 3 years, and that's just sounded like something I wanted to be part of.
You made a comment that is quite relatable. You said that leaving Accenture, where you'd been for more than 2 decades, was difficult because you thoroughly enjoyed the work. You're comfortable there. And I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to. Walk me through your decision-making process. What made you ultimately say yes? How did you weigh the pros and cons? In hindsight, you said it was a great decision, but you didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, it's funny about weighing pros and cons. And I had done it before in my career. I remember moving back from London to New York, and I remember my pros and cons list. And my pros list of staying in London was much longer, actually. And then I followed my gut. So I think this was another example where I could do all the analysis I wanted, but I kind of knew in my gut that it was time to do something different. I could see my next 10 years at Accenture, but I couldn't quite see the next 10 years somewhere else. But I just knew I was ready for the next thing. And I knew where I was going, but it was obviously a new experience. So I don't think you ever know 100%. And we're all very analytical. So we have very long lists of pros and cons. And ultimately, I think I've gotten better at trusting my gut.
You've had a number of global posts. Do you still think that international experience is critical in order to reach the C-suite?
So I've spent most of my career in financial services. So I do think in the industry of financial services, it is really important to have been in most of the major financial services hubs. So I spent quite a bit of time in London, a couple of different stints. I spent time in Frankfurt, but I've also spent time in India, for example, quite a bit of time in India, and then DC, New York, and so forth. So yes, and I think even if you work for the same company, knowing how things work in London, how you get things done in London versus New York is really important.
It teaches you what?
It really teaches you how you can execute in a local market. So clients might be similar, but they're not the same. Culturally, they're different. How you do business is different. And I think you just become much more well-rounded. And also, of course, we lead global teams. So having that experience to really lead global teams, you have to meet them where they are. And that's also why I travel a lot, because I want to see what our teams and our clients are doing out in the markets.
Yeah, and also be able to really localize the global work that you're doing. One more question, as we reflect on your career, one thing I'm noticing now, especially in the consultant space, just for a bit of context, recently wrote a piece about McKinsey, obviously a massive consulting firm, and they are the preeminent CEO generating factory, if you will, for Fortune 500 CEOs. When you look across the entire C-suite, BCG, Accenture, you see so many C-suite executives who had prior consultant experience, especially early in their careers, and it really set them up to hold these executive positions later on down the line. With the advent of AI, however, and I'm sure you've heard some of this, a lot of that early career work that went to consultants that really formed who you were early on is kind of going to the wayside. And I'm curious what your thoughts on that are. I mean, do you think consulting is still a place to, have a formative career that can serve someone to enter the C-suite later on and develop some of those operational chops?
Yeah, let me answer the question first about the consulting industry, and then perhaps a bit of how AI plays into that. So for me, consulting was great because you really learn a lot about strategic thinking. You're becoming, analytical, but you also have to execute because no one calls a consulting firm when everything is perfect. It usually has to happen very quickly. It's either a great opportunity or perhaps something difficult, or perhaps there's a merger or an expansion. So I really enjoy that, and I got to work with the world's best companies around the world. So I think that's a great experience. And in that sense, I don't know that consulting is that different from banking. So as I look at AI and I look at our junior talent and our entry level, we actually have more people joining us today at entry level and junior talent than we did a few years ago. And happy to talk about our AI journey, but I think that the two really work well together.
We will be digging into the AI journey. I know it's something that your CEO has talked about ad nauseum. Before we do, however, I just want to hear a bit about your role as Chief Commercial Officer. You've been here 3 years. What's front of mind for you? What does this role mean? What does it entail in practice?
It's a great question. So first, we didn't have a chief commercial officer, so it was a new role. So that's always interesting. And chief commercial officer roles are probably more common in platform companies, but interestingly enough, since I started, and not because of me, but apparently in the last couple of years, there's been quite an increase in chief commercial officer roles. And for me, it means that I'm focused on clients every day. How do we serve clients? How do we show up on our best day every day? And how do we help our clients grow and prosper? And that's really fun. Now, how we get there, for us, that's been a really important transformation, something that we call the platform's operating model transformation. And so when you look at Bank of New York, when Robin Vince, as you mentioned, he came in some 3 years ago as CEO. And, it's an incredible bank. We have lots of different businesses. And what Robin decided to do was to look at all those businesses and say, are they still a strategic fit? Are we happy with the businesses? Are there other businesses we should have? So as we went through that, we concluded that we have awesome businesses. And actually, no one has quite the combination of businesses that we do. But what we hadn't quite done was to make them work together. They were not unified. So the first mission...
So everyone was operating in silos, so to speak?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to take an example in my world, perhaps there were 11 different client satisfaction surveys to the same client. That's not really a best practice. So, or we had 8 different call centers or 5 different loans platforms and so forth. So we looked at all that and said, the power of really de-siloing this company and unifying what we do and making best use of something once, have it in one place once and be industry leading. And that's the journey that we've been on. And we've been assembling these different pieces to create this platform's operating model, as we call that. And as part of that, we have what we call the new commercial model, so something that I'm very much focused on. And that is really how do our clients experience this? So when I started early on, we did quite a lot of voice of client surveys, something I've always loved doing. We might have a view of how the world works, but what are our clients actually saying? So what our clients said was actually very similar to what we said. Now we have a very client-focused team and employees. So when our clients say something, our people really pay attention. So it was sort of a gift. Our clients said, we love your culture, we love your team, you have great products, but actually we don't know everything you do. And that's kind of a gift to be given when clients say, we want to get to know you better. Perhaps there's something we're doing with someone else that we could do with you as well. So that's been very much the journey where the first thing has been to deepen our relationships with the clients we have. We have an amazing client list, but they weren't all working across all our businesses. Perhaps they were working across one business and didn't know that we had these other businesses. So that's been very much part of the journey that we've been on so far.
What skills are needed to hold such a client-facing role?
So our client-facing leaders, they really represent the entire company. So we have people that can talk about all the businesses that will serve a particular client. And then we have deep experts in every area and every line of business. And the magic is really how that all comes together. So for our clients, we will have someone who really owns that relationship. And then they have a team that surround them with skills from all the other businesses. So we come across as one company to our clients. And that's really been a lot of fun work. We see the results in our client satisfaction surveys, and we also see the results in our business because our clients are now buying from more areas, more businesses than they did before.
You often hear about the need for intense customer centricity. I'm sure you're thinking about that. It seems that your role, especially at a financial services firm, is one where you have to be hand in hand with the clients. What are they telling you in terms of their pain points these days, and how from geopolitical volatility to macroeconomic issues? There's just so much that is affecting all companies, really. If I'm not mistaken, BNY serves about 90% of the Fortune 500. A lot that falls into your lap. So what are your clients telling you as their pain points, and how do you help them navigate it across your services?
Yeah, it's first picking up on that point of you really have to know your clients well. And that is something we've been very focused on too. Do you listen to your clients when you go meet with your clients? Are you doing all the talking, or are you doing the listening? Are you listening to their earnings? What are their pain points? So it's very important to know where they're coming from, that voice of client. But it's also our responsibility to look around corners and think about what they're going to need. What are we seeing? What might happen next? Are we prepared for what they might ask for? So we have great clients that we've served for decades and decades. Sometimes when I go around the world, a client will come up and say, "We've been your client for 100 years." And, there's nothing better than that. So we know our clients very well, and yet we want to continue to get to know them better. So we, of course, meet with them a lot. We talk to them a lot. We do what we call client summits. We have client advisory councils where we look at particular product ideas that we might have to get their feedback. So all of that is something that's sort of part of our rhythm. Now, right now, our clients are focused on what we would call a number of mega trends, private markets, AI, digital assets, outsourcing perhaps, because they're very busy growing their own businesses, but they don't necessarily want to do everything themselves. Wealth services is another big trend. And for each of those, we have, of course, a strategy. We look at our unique products and we think about how do we combine those products to create unique solutions that perhaps only we can do to satisfy the needs of our clients. But it's very much a dialogue. Sometimes we come up with the next best idea. Sometimes they have a need. A lot of times we collaborate and come up with the ideas together.
How large is the team that reports into you?
So it's an interesting question. One thing that we have tried not to talk about so much is my team, your team. And so whereas there are about 1,000 plus client-facing, client coverage teams and another 1,000 client service teams, I don't really think about them as my team. They're our team. And our culture really allows for that. So we can go and talk to anyone in the entire firm. You don't have to call anyone to say, is it okay if I check in with your team? And that's a great thing about our culture, that it's very collaborative. And as we sometimes say, for having such a collaborative culture, we haven't always collaborated, but we are now when we're really breaking down the silos that existed, and we're really seeing the fruits of that hard work.
Well, I know the reason I asked about how many, employees you oversee. I know you don't use that verbiage internally, but for ease of digestibility for our audience, let's say it's 1,000. I'm just curious what your leadership philosophy is. What is your leadership strategy? And then bifurcating that question, how do you hire, especially for client-facing roles? What attributes? What are you looking for in direct reports?
Yeah. So I think
maybe let's start with the leadership philosophy.
Yeah. Well, I think today's leaders need to be very comfortable living in a bit of a paradox. I don't know if that was true, 40 years ago, but I think you have to be very strategic and visionary, and then you have to be in the details. Not micromanaging, but you have to be interested, and you really have to look at what people are doing. I think you have to have a high IQ. You have to be analytical, and you have to have a tremendous EQ. You have to be local. Are we looking at the needs in this local city, country, community? And then you have to think really globally. So all of those things are things that I enjoy, but I think it's a paradox that perhaps not everyone had to live in before. So I'm really driven by that journey of setting a vision, coming up with a plan, and then executing. And I think that's true in my life and at work. So whether it's, renovating a farmhouse from 1840 in Hudson Valley, or it's transforming a company, a bank from 1784 on the shores of Hudson River. I just love the process, and perhaps that's a bit of what I took with me from consulting. Setting the vision, planning it out, getting it done, and then starting again with something else.
That's an interesting framework. Setting the vision. I've heard it with those who had backgrounds in consulting. Setting the vision and then executing on that. It's always about the results, especially for clients in a role that is very client facing. How much of that is also just building these deep, trust based, very human relationship with clients versus being really metrics driven and be like, okay, we did it, we got it across the finish line. I mean, how do you find the balance between the two?
Yes, it definitely is a balance.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're progressing on our journey, of course, from a business perspective as well. But coming back to our clients, we do have an amazing client list, and we've known them for a very long time. And many of our clients I've known my entire career because I served them when I was a consultant as well. And it's interesting because as I reflect on that, I think some of the closest relationships have come from some of the hardest programs, hardest projects, hardest moments where, we worked together, whether that was, a recession, a financial crisis, a merger, or perhaps it was something positive, but you knew it was hard. There were a lot of different stakeholders. A lot was at stake. There were moments where you weren't sure you're going to get through it. And then afterwards, you built this immense, trust. And I think that we have that with a lot of our clients.
BNY is a roughly 240-year organization, co-founded by Alexander Hamilton in 1784, one of the oldest financial institutions. How do you drive innovation in a company that carries such a deep legacy and such a deep tradition? I know you talk about, pushing forward into digital markets, but what does that really look like in practice?
Yeah. Great question. So we're a very global company. And as you say, we're also the oldest bank in the U.S., 240 plus years old. And I always say if we weren't very much focused on resiliency, building trust with our clients and innovating, it'd be hard to be 240 years old. So I think we are very innovative. So whether it's AI innovation or digital assets innovation or product innovation, that is part of what we do. But our focus is always to safekeeping and administration of assets, for our clients. So we know what our job is. We know that it's all about safekeeping, but you can be very innovative, and I believe that we are. So there's a lot of respect for the shoulders that we stand upon from previous generations, all the way back to Alexander Hamilton. And then knowing that, I think it just makes us so much more excited by what's ahead, because we're looking to the next 240 years.
Talk to me about AI. I mean, you can't have any conversation without talking about AI, tech, the human collaboration between tech and AI. I saw that you're now developing around 150 AI-powered solutions across the firm. Which areas of the business are you seeing the most tangible impact? Where do you see the next frontier of opportunity for BNY?
Yeah. So I just read something, I think it was an MIT study that said that 95% of companies are not seeing the value from AI.
Right.
And we believe we're in that 5% that's actually seeing quite a big impact. So we leaned in early. We created our own AI platform called Eliza. Alexander Hamilton's wife was named Eliza. And of course, we also have partnerships, for example, with OpenAI. So we have access to their framework and their models. We have a supercomputer powered by NVIDIA to give us scale and be able to innovate. So I think it's really important to partner as well. But I actually don't think that technology is why companies don't feel like they're making progress. It's more human adoption. So we understood that quite early and focused on that. And we said, AI for everyone, everywhere, for everything. So it's not only the engineers that are using AI, but really everyone. So 99% of our people are trained. And there are more users outside engineering than in engineering because everyone's using it. And where are we seeing progress? Well, we have three strategic pillars that we talk about a lot. I haven't talked about them today, but there are be more for our clients, run the company better, empower our culture. So I look across those three strategic pillars and then think about AI. So I would say if I start with power our culture, and just thinking about an event we had the other day, which was a hackathon for all the commercial areas around the world, all the regions, all the businesses, and we had a great number of ideas, and it was interesting to see what came in. Of course, we're the commercial function, but I would say most of them were around client insights. How can we bring more client insights to our clients? So that was great to see. Then in terms of running our company better, we see things like faster onboarding, more choice in terms of currency or payment options, automation of payments, all those kinds of operational metrics. And then in terms of being more for our clients, and we talked about this a bit earlier, how do we gain insight in terms of what our clients really want and need?
How are you gaining insight, particularly through the use of AI?
Yeah. So one thing that we've invested in a lot over the last few years is our client relationship management tools. So we really know our clients and we can compare across. So if you have a client that is very, very happy and they're doing work across 8 different lines of business, and then we have a client that's happy but perhaps not delighted. Why is that client not as delighted as the other client? And we have so much data and metrics now that we can look at. So that's really helpful. Another example is in our client satisfaction surveys, we ask questions around what else do you think we should be doing? What other solutions and products would be helpful to you? And using AI to analyze all that data is incredible, and then to help you prioritize what you're actually going to be investing in.
How are you personally using AI to make you more efficient as a leader?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I use AI in some form every day.
Did you use it to prep for this interview?
Prep for the interview. I was going to say, I feel like I use it every hour probably. So a lot of times it's, you're analyzing something and you're trying to look at different data sources, and you're trying to kind of get to the source of that. But in many cases, it's to help us prioritize what we do as well as we look at new products and solutions and investments. But we have AI agents across the firm. And coming back to the question of junior talent, what I've really enjoyed seeing is, of course, a lot of our junior talent come in with quite strong AI skills. But I see people that have been with the firm for like 40 years that are the biggest supporters. So I think this AI for everything has really worked for us. I was asked on a panel the other day if our employees are afraid of AI. And I don't feel that at all. I think if anything, they're leaning in, they're getting to do strategic work and, perhaps can automate some of the things that weren't that exciting. And because everyone's doing it, it feels like we're sort of in it together. Of course, it's always easier when, you're growing and we're growing, and that helps as well. But we're really investing the efficiencies that we're getting from AI. We're investing most of them back into the firm in new solutions for our clients, in better client service. And I think our people see that and feel that.
BNY has several digital employees. How do you ensure that they're up to par? I'm assuming that they work in tandem with the human employees at the firm.
Yes, we have more than 100 digital employees. They have names, they have emails, and they're part of teams. And I think that's very important to know. So they really work alongside our employees. Our employees check their work, but they're working very hard alongside our employees.
And what does that look like in practice when you say that they're collaborating with humans? Give me some for instances.
So they might be working on assessing, on reviewing a piece of work, and they're working on that on their own. And then they interact with our humans that will review that work. So in that sense, it's a digital employee working alongside our human employees on teams together.
You said at the top of the conversation, you're part of the 5% where you are seeing impact from AI, and you think that the hindrance a lot of companies face is the human adoption element. But what do you say to employees? I'm sure especially newer employees who might be apprehensive about how this will affect their future work or their potential to find future work.
I mean, to be honest, I thought we would see more resistance than we have. I think, if anything, people are really leaning into learning. We have a lot of focus on learning as it is across many different aspects of our business. So this is one of the things that they're focused on. We set specific metrics in terms of the kind of learning that we want our employees to take, our colleagues to take, and AI is one of those. But we focus on a lot of different topics, and right now there are other topics like digital assets that's really important, or wealth services, or private markets. So we really encourage people to constantly lean into that.
Yeah. In your estimation or in your experience, what kinds of human skills do you think are becoming even more valuable now, not less, as AI takes on some of these repetitive tasks, some of this quote unquote grunt work?
Yeah. So being in the midst of a transformation, I always reflect on, I think, the one skill that we perhaps underestimate that is always needed, and that is communications. So, of course, AI can be very helpful in pulling together briefings, client briefings, or preparation for an interview, all those great things. But in terms of that need to constantly check in with teams, making sure that they have what they need, listening to our teams, and sort of repeating again the journey that we're on while listening to where our clients are at, where our employees are at. I think that that's something that, you can never have enough of. And it's particularly true when you're in the midst of a transformation.
Yeah. You're in the midst of this transformation. How do you bring the team along, all rowing in the same boat, and get that buy-in from them?
Yes, we work hard, but we have a lot of fun too. So one thing we've done is really, I think, to find the rhythm of the business, and so we sort of know what to expect from what's happening at quarter end, what's happening, at month end, what's happening on Wednesdays. We've just found our rhythm, and it took a bit of time to put that in place, but it's great to see that it's there now. So that really allows us to think both short term and then really long term. And we're quite specific in terms of what we expect from our different meetings and engagements. So I know people sometimes have meeting fatigue. And I think we've gotten better at saying, what do we expect of this meeting? Who has to be there? What is the outcome? What's the pre-read? What are the 2 slides we're going to look at to have this discussion? What are the decisions we're trying to make? What is the follow-up? And I really think we've gotten so much better at all of that. And it's really helping the business, but it's also helping, I think, our culture. People know what to expect, and they know that we're thinking about the here and now, and that we're thinking about the future and our strategic imperatives and the investment decisions that we have to make.
You did bring up digital assets. I know BNY recently launched the BNY Dreyfus Stablecoin Reserves Fund. It is a money market vehicle designed for stablecoin issuers under this new regulatory framework. How do you see BNY balancing being this trusted traditional institution while also participating in some of these more experimental digital asset infrastructures?
Yes. So digital assets is another area that we invested in quite early. And one of those areas where you really look at where the industry is going, where we want to go, and what our clients are telling us. And what our clients were telling us was they needed to be able to do what they do for traditional assets also in digital assets. And we basically give them access to have that same custody, settlement, safekeeping, record keeping that we provide with traditional assets. We can also do for digital assets. And it's not that we believe that traditional assets will go away overnight. This is going to be a transformation. But digital assets are, very interesting because they provide speed and agility and transparency. So we're absolutely leaning in there, and our clients are leaning in there. But our job is really to be able to do both. We can do what you need to do for traditional assets, and we can do that with digital assets. So that's really how we look at this space. Ultimately, our strategy is client-led, and this is where our clients are right now on the journey, and we're sort of helping to build build that future.
Yeah, they essentially serve as the North Star. I mean, one huge topic of conversation, certainly here at Fortune, is the great wealth transfer, and how that wealth is now hidden millennials, soon to be Gen Z, and how that really affects every area of business. Certainly, as someone who's working in the financial services or in banking, how are you all thinking about it in terms of your clients, and how are you getting ahead of that and being more active rather than reactionary?
So wealth is one of those mega trends that we are also very passionate about. And our wealth services business is very important to us and to our clients. That is one of the areas where we've invested a lot in our technology and our platform. So we have an integrated solution that really helps serve the advisors, because when they sit down with their clients have a lot of different information from lots of different banks. And this is a platform that integrates all that, makes it easier for them, and they can spend more time with their clients. So that's really important. As you think about BNY today, of course, we're a bank. We're very proud to be a bank around the globe, oldest bank in the United States. But the way to think about what we do is that we have these incredible platforms. We're number one in custody, number one in securities lending. We power the treasury market. We touch 20% of investable assets in the world. And we have these amazing platforms that we built over time. And our clients are building their businesses on top of our platforms so they can grow and prosper. And I think that feels really meaningful, certainly to me, but also to our clients.
Yeah. Let's end here. I mean, you said you're on this transformation journey. Transformation never truly ends, but where does this transformation, quote unquote, end?
I don't know that a transformation ever ends, but we say that we're really on a decades-long transformation here. And we're sort of in the first phase of that, going into the second phase. From a client perspective, again, we're deepening our relationships, and we have amazing relationships. We are getting to know new clients, and we're going to market every day with new solutions that we believe our clients need and want. And they're really powered by these amazing businesses that we have. And we're bringing them together in a unified way, and in an industrialized way that perhaps we've never done before.
And you're also certainly powered by AI and technology at this point. So meet in the moment here. Cathinka, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a really fun conversation.
Thank you, Ruth. The future is bright.
The future is bright.
Yeah.